John Domingue is going to talk to us about using blockchains in higher education. Professor John Domingue is Director of the Knowledge Media Institute at the Open University and President of STI International, a semantics-focused, oh no wonder you liked that word, John, earlier on, a semantics-focused networking organisation. He's published over 250 refereed articles in the area of semantics and the web, and his current work is focused on how semantic technology can automate the management, development and use of web services. There's a lot of other very impressive stuff there, which I'm sure you can read at your leisure. But John, welcome. You have been contributing earlier in the day, but thank you very much, and over to you.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about blockchains in higher education. So we've been doing some experiments at the Open University. Next slide. Yeah, so of course I deliberately asked that question from the previous presenter. So it's just one example of why education is important. It's important in the lives, in people's personal lives, in the careers they get. There was a discussion this morning about the vote on Brexit and Trump. So I put in two graphs. So there's a strong correlation between the percentage of people who had education and how different regions in the UK voted for Brexit. So there's a strong correlation there. Next slide. There's also a strong correlation between whether US citizens voted for Trump or not and their education. So education, of course, is not just important at the individual level, it's important in a regional and national level. I'll talk a little bit about, I'll give you some background about where I'm from and the context before I talk about blockchains. So the next slide. So we produce a lot of content. Here's just a small sample of one of our courses. It's just a short video. So it's from The Frozen Planet. So it's David Attenborough. It's a co-production with the BBC. I think his current Planet version 2 is a co-production with the Open University. We use these materials in our courses. Over 300,000 people engage with this, and I think a large percentage of the population. So we have a very different model and a very different ethos about what higher education is. A lot of collaborations with BBC. Anyone in the UK will know we produced a lot of late night TV shows. Historically, people big Kippers Highs. We don't do that so much anymore. Okay, and then from there, there's a tie-in to the courses that one can do. In terms of values, I should say a little bit more about the values that we have. The word open in Open University is extremely important for us. So our mission is to be open to people, places, methods, and ideas. This is copied from the mission page of our website. So we promote educational opportunity and social justice by providing high-quality university education to all who wish to realise their ambitions and fulfil their potential. If you want to study for a degree at Open University, you do not need any qualifications at all. Next slide. We use technology. We were nearly called the University of the Air because we were created in the late 60s, early 70s, people using the radio. And so this is a quote from the Vice-Chancellor, Sir John Daniel. So what we're proud of is breaking that link between exclusivity and quality. So measuring a university by saying we're a very good university because we turn away lots of people we don't think is a rational thing to do. So we like to break that link to say you can provide the highest quality education without being exclusive. And as Sir John Daniel says, that technology has a role for us in that. Just some facts. We're the largest university in the UK. We have 180,000 students. 11% are from ethnic populations. Largest provider of STEM education in Europe with 22,000 students. Our online materials in iTunes U been downloaded nearly 70 million times. 3 out of 4 of our students have no previous qualifications. 1 in 8 of our students is disabled. So we really try to be open for everyone. It doesn't matter who you are, you can come and study with us. We do own the MOOC company, FutureLearn, which is now the third largest MOOC company in the planet. It ran an open free course a couple of summers ago that had 400,000 students, English as a second language. We also have OpenLearn, where we offer a wide range of freely available materials. If you go to the next slide. So just some facts about OpenLearn. So there are 12,000 hours of freely available high quality educational materials available for free, over 800 free courses. It's been running. So over the 10 years, OpenLearn's been running. 45 million people have learned there. 13% of which have gone on to make formal inquiries, and some have gone on to degrees. One of the aspects we're interested in is accreditation and micro-accreditation. So we play a lot in the space of badges, so which are like people can think about the Scouts badges or Girl Guides badges, but we think that this is causing a shift in further education and higher education. So you have here the old school credentials, where you spend 3 or 4 years somewhere and you get one piece of paper. So 1 point saying you got an integer, maybe a first or an upper second, and that's it. And then you can think about the badging world and what does industry and society really need? It needs people with very specific skills. People need to retrain at various points in life. So you can think about actually assigning accreditation for those and bringing in all of the rich activities that students do outside of their university education and accredit those. So next slide. So we also think, again, because we're the Open University, about social mobility. So there's a lot of people in society who are certificate poor, don't have certificates, and it can be a big jump, especially later on in life, to move to get some accreditation. And badges provide a route for getting a small amount of accreditation. You can begin to recognise informal learning, and we also look a lot at the bridge between informal learning and formal learning. So informal learning on the MOOC platform, moving to formal learning and doing a degree. We take students who have been studying on FutureLearn on certain courses, and they can move to a degree. They get some accreditation for that. Other universities are doing the same thing, including MIT. So if you do some work on their edX platform, then you can move to an MIT master's course. Somebody mentioned data this morning, and of course blockchains and peer-to-peer databases are a way of storing data. In a university setting, we have lots of data about our students. We have their profiles, so demographic data, and now even in face-to-face universities, students do a lot of learning online. They use a virtual learning environment, and we're collecting all of that data. This is a tool we have. You analyze using data analytics for the students' virtual learning environment data. On our courses, on our biggest courses, we have thousands and thousands of students. You can use the interactions of students from the previous presentation of the course to predict how well the students are going to do on this year's cohort. So in this system, we can predict with a 90% accuracy if a student is going to pass the next assignment, if they're going to pass the module. In fact, in some courses, the VLE opens a couple of weeks before the course starts. We can predict with 80% accuracy before the course actually starts if they're going to pass or fail. If you go to the next one.
Do you tell them that in advance?
We have an intervention strategy. So there's a whole, which I won't talk about. We have intervention teams. The students have a personal tutor. So there's a huge other bumper with that. There are various dashboards. So this is one of the dashboards that we have that a tutor would get. Every row is a student, and then you have 4 machine learning algorithms that are saying, is the student going to pass the course or not? And then the tutors can intervene. There's another dashboard for the students to see themselves. This is being 70,000 students have used this. It's been, at this moment, over 900 tutors have access to this information. Okay, so that's the background of where I'm from. So I just wanted to give you the context of the scenario. So now I'll say a little bit about the relationship from our point of view between blockchains and adult education, higher education. So next slide. So others have been working in the area. So the University of Nicosia were the first a few years ago to put academic certificates onto the blockchain. They have a master's course on distributed ledgers, and they put all their master's certificates up on the blockchain. Next slide. The MIT Media Lab, they offer a medal to say that we value you as a fellow of our media lab, and that goes onto the blockchain as well. They're also doing some work on putting badges. There's a standard for badges, an open standard, and they're putting this onto the Bitcoin network. Sony are producing a blockchain platform which will be out next year, probably for internal use. And one of the things that excites them is the disaggregation between what students do in a test, so students sitting there doing some online exam, and the accreditation you give to them. So I don't agree with everything they want to do. So one of the things they want to do is you can think about giving different certifications for the same exams, depending on the sector, depending on the region. And then you can have rules like, we'll only want to give the top class qualification or hire people who took less than 15 minutes on question 1 in this exam. Yes, it's scary. But you have that fine-grained information linked to the blockchain and in a distributed system. So we see the generically the blockchain as a platform for communication between all the stakeholders in adult education. So you have the students who would control and own the data. You have people delivering the information, people who write the materials. You have accreditors, validators, employers. All the transactions could be digitally signed through a blockchain platform. Next slide. So we've been conducting some experiments. We have a website, blockchain.open.ac.uk. We've been taking our student data, creating dApps on the Ethereum platform. We have a number of platforms running. We're talking to a lot of externals. So there's one on badges. If you just wait on that one. Yeah. No, you were right. You're right. So the first thing we did was you turn the version 1 of the Open Badges standard. So there's a world standard for Open Badges which comes from Mozilla. We're part of the design team. And we've turned that into smart contracts. So there's one for the assertion that somebody was given this accreditation, a badge for who received the certificate, a smart contract for the badge itself, one for the issuer, which is interesting if you think for the apprenticeship context, which is coming out in the UK. So what will happen soon is companies will give badges for apprenticeships, but those badges will have been authored by academic institutions, such as the Open University. So you can think about signing and allowing Boeing or Rolls-Royce to give badges on someone's behalf. There's a smart contract, for the evidence. So what was the evidence underlying the issuing of this badge? That could tie to the portfolio of the student's work. Then you can have criteria, so you can specify in the smart contract what are the criteria amongst everyone who has consensus for giving these badges, and then alignment to different global standards for certificates and degrees. Next. So one experiment that we're running is we have a master's course in online and distance education. Has around 350 students at any one time. So the students that started in October, some of their materials that they produce for the course will go onto the public Ethereum blockchain and a private blockchain. So this will be abstracts of papers that they write and posters that they create. So they're signed in for this. If you play the movie, so one of the things we're doing, I'll just speak as it plays. We created a little wallet an easy-to-use wallet for students to use, where they can pick an identity, they can enroll in courses, they can see the certificates and badges that they have, they can see that the courses which are available across more than one institution. So here we're including badges not just from the Open University but from our MOOC company as well, FutureLearn. There's also other interfaces that we're creating for administration as well. So for people to administer the students on the course, to issue the certificate, to enroll or de-enroll students. If you move to the next movie, if you just start that and then I'll start talking. This is in a corporate training scenario. So we've been talking to a lot of people. One of the people we've been talking to is KPMG. We have a big collaboration with KPMG anyway at the Open University on in the apprenticeships in the civil service area. So here we're imagining a world, we're in a company, they go away and do some training for 1 or 2 days, and usually that training is never applied in the workplace. So we're thinking, how can we fix this? So one of the things we're looking at is, imagine if you do the accreditation at work. So then all of your peers in the company have tokens, and then they spend those tokens on you for the soft skills, for leadership skills, communication skills, and collaboration skills. So then everyone has their reputation, what people think of their communication and leadership, and then they have a fixed number of tokens every year, which they then spend on their colleagues, and then smart contracts turn these into badges. These would be transferable across organizations. Maybe they would be sector specific. Next one. So this is this complex slide describes let's say the overall framework as we see it of blockchain-based adult education. So you have the student in the center, which of course is important for any institution, it's important for Open University, and the student would own all of the data. This has come out several times today. The students are using online resources, they're taking courses, they have teachers. Teachers are providing learning. There are people that have authored the materials. The students are working with other students, maybe in collaborative projects. So you have a reputational flow in that little ecosystem, where the students are rating the courses and the materials, they're rating the teachers are providing guidance and feedback. All of that, with the source materials, can go into a peer-to-peer distributed database, all referenced to by the blockchain. Employers can get access to this under student control. So as a demo, I'm not going to show, but there's a startup in London called Appii, APPII, and they're looking at putting CVs on the blockchain. And of course, we know in the news there's high-profile cases of people who've committed fraud. There was a dean at MIT who, after 30 years, they found out that she'd lied about her degree. There was a vice president at Yahoo. One of the candidates to be the leader of the Conservative Party, to be the Prime Minister, there was a contention about her CV. The current Prime Minister of India has locked down the institution where he did his degree because there's a discrepancy between what he said, claimed, and the degree he got. So that database is now closed. You can no longer access this. So one of the things we're building at the moment is students would control their data, and they would give employers timed access to this. So for going for an interview, the employers can see the information. Appii, what they're doing is teenagers would have their materials on the blockchain, and they would put their aspirations. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a computer scientist. That would be automatic matching to courses. So the course definitions, like ours, and then they're talking to companies. If you're at a company, as soon as you put your profile or job advert on the blockchain, you immediately get a list of people who are applicable, and then you can contact. So that's the overall framework. Of course, there's disintermediation and disaggregation. So I don't tell my bosses about this, but a university, in some sense, you get income in from the students and from the government. You give certificates out. At the Open University, we've separated for many years who delivers the education. We have a network of thousands of other professors at universities to teach for us, and who provides the content. So then you can think about smart contracts distributing the finances through the blockchain. One of the things that we're doing at the moment is, of course, the blockchains are most useful when you have many stakeholders and there is not everybody trusts everybody else. So we're in the process of beginning to set up a national blockchain for the whole of the UK higher education sector. I've spoken to a number of universities, including Imperial, UCL, Goldsmith and King's, neighbourhoods in principle, JISC, who provide the infrastructure for the UK universities, have a node running and is connected to ours, and Southampton have a node that's been set up. So we imagine a future world where all badges from courses and certification across the UK would be sitting in a national blockchain for employers to move. This would enable students to move more easily between courses at different establishments, to move between MOOC courses, to include other forms of learning and other forms that show evidence of leadership. There's an initiative in the UK called HERE, which is a higher education academic record, a more comprehensive record of what the student's done. I'm talking to the HERE people about putting things like students teaching, students maybe answering questions on some website or doing other activities in their community, and all of that going into the blockchain. So, to summarize, there are a number of benefits. I think a lot of people in the room know this. I think the main ones I would pick out on this slide are that the students would own their data. And it's very important if you think about lifelong learning. The fact that there's no way a student who finishes their degree, who's 21 today, has all the knowledge they need for the next 40 years of their life in this changing world. So having that data controlled as they learn in many places, and this lowering of process costs. So you can think about an individual level. Now in the UK we charge £9,000 a year to students, so lowering that cost would be good. And one can also think about opening up the, lowering the barriers to entry. You can almost think of a case of a university of one. Now if I start a university, I'm not sure if that has the same value as doing a degree at Oxford, but imagine if somebody took a course from Sir Tim Berners-Lee on the web. That would have a certain value. So then on the blockchain you could have not just institutions, you could have individual tutors, who is the external validators and examiners, all there to be examined. Of course you get interoperability and disaggregation, and then you can think about this issuing of badges, again, especially from an apprenticeship angle. So the reason why the Open University and other universities can issue certificates is because we have a badge. Our badge comes from the Queen. She gives us a royal charter, but then you can think about disaggregating the issuing of badges. So the ability to issue a badge is just a collection of badges that are signed by others, and they can be given or revoked in a wide space. And then you can think about this, as was mentioned earlier, about the creation of countries. You can think about creation of educational spaces, educational countries or regions, where you have educational tokens linked to learning and badges and the finances side. That's all I wanted to say. I didn't do this on my own.
Wow.